is Laura Meyer. I'm the owner and operator of Pizzeria da Laura in Berkeley, California, and I've been making pizza for about 18, 19 years.
Wow, impressive. You started your pizza making journey at Paisanos, your local pizza spot.
Correct, in Castro Valley, California.
Castro Valley, California. Young Laura was thinking, hey, I'm just gonna get a part-time job, or hey, I'm gonna be a world pizza champion one day. What was going through your mind?
It was definitely a, hey, I need a part-time job. I'm a high school student, I'm a teenager. My family's telling me, hey, go get a job. So I went and got a job, and it just happened to be where my friends worked. And that was kind of what started it all. It wasn't necessarily that I had any specific desire to be in the food industry or anything like that. It was, I went where my friends were. And it, it was the most fun job.
Shout out to my buddy, Mike Madriaga, who got me my first job out of high school. I was a photographer at Great America. I was one of those annoying guys who was like, hey, stop for a quick photo. Yeah, and look what we're doing now. We got some cameras.
We are.
Look where we are, right? You eventually left that job, traveled, went to college. Is that right? And then came back?
Well, I was still working. I went to school in San Francisco. I went to college in San Francisco. And so I was still around. I was still actually working throughout college. It was just on more of a part-time basis. And then I did go and study abroad. So I was gone for about a year and a half. But when I came back, I picked right back up and continued to work there. And it was when I was graduating, that was when Tony G was opening up Tony's in San Francisco. And so it just kind of stars aligned kind of a thing where he was looking for someone. He offered me the job. I wanted to go to the big city to get out of my parents' house and, just things like that. And so the opportunity arose and I jumped at it.
When did the Laura Meyer pizza maker extraordinaire start to happen, like competing and all of that stuff?
Well, it was one of those things where as I was going along, I wasn't actively thinking about like, oh, this is my career forever. Oh, this is what I want to do forever. Oh, I want to open a restaurant. I actually never thought about it. I was just always going after the things that I had fun and I liked to do. And I'm an extremely competitive person. I've played sports my whole life. I grew up with brothers. I just have a naturally competitive personality, and I would hope not the annoying kind. I'm not going to be screaming at you, and I'm not, but I'm more of the quiet kind. But
super hyper focused, but in it.
So when I found out that there were competitions, and that Tony was totally okay with me competing, and helped me do it in the sense of push me to sign up, do it. He was a positive influence in that respect. He never told me, no, don't do it. And I started in 2013. Competing at Pizza Expo was my first time ever doing it. Fell flat on my face. But it so happened to be the same year that I went to Parma and happened to win first place. So it was one of those, like, you fall flat on your face, but you learn a lot. And then I did it again. And then obviously those two experiences kind of spurred me to, oh yeah, I love doing this. I'm totally into this. I want to keep doing it. And then that just kind of kept me going. And I still love to do it. And it looks a little bit different for me now competing than it used to in the beginning. But I still love the competition aspect, the mindset, the build up towards it, the prep, just all of the things that make up a competition. It's not just, the 15 minutes of you making a pie. There's a lot more to it. And there's a lot more, building into it. So I love that.
I wasn't planning to ask this, but are you planning to compete at Expo? Are you allowed to compete?
No, I'm not. If you're a speaker at Expo, you're not technically supposed to be competing, not allowed to compete. So no, I won't be competing at Expo, but I still like to compete abroad. So I'll go to Parma, I'll go to, some of the other ones that are outside of Pizza Expo.
When did you finally see that restaurant ownership was for you?
COVID. Just like with a lot of other people, COVID afforded me the time to really kind of sit and reflect and, especially with the age that I was at that time, it was, I've worked with Tony for so many years, what am I doing?
And moved up, rightfully so.
Yeah, and started from just a line cook, cashier, all the way up, and it wasn't a bad thing. It was just I'm in my 30s now, and what am I doing? Haven't necessarily hit the peak in the sense of Tony's trajectory. I knew that he was striving for more and bigger and whatnot, and I knew that I could stay and continue to move forward, but there was only ever going to be a ceiling because I'm not Tony. And that's not a negative thing, it's just facts. And so I had to kind of sit and look at what is it that I wanted for myself, for my future, for just my own ego, and whatnot. And I had decided that I have the skill set outside of the kitchen, within the kitchen, that I will always have a job. Regardless of what that job looks like, I will always find a way to provide for myself, my family, whatever the case may be. I will always have a job. But what is it that I want for myself? And so I knew that it would be probably the only regret I ever had if I never tried it. And I had to get to a point where I had to have the understanding and the full understanding that restaurants don't have to be forever. Because growing up in restaurants and with Tony and with all of the other people that we surround ourselves with, they're amazing people, but the goal has always been, I want this to live on for generations. I want this to be around for 50 years or whatever it is. And it might not be expressed outright in that sense, but no one wants a restaurant to collapse. No one, so you do want longevity, but it can be for as long as you want it to be. And that I had to kind of learn and be okay with that and tell myself that, okay, this is what I want to do, but it doesn't necessarily have to be my forever. I can build it to whatever I want it to be. I can make it as successful as I want it to be. But if I want out because I want to pursue something else, that option is there.
Did you always know you were going to want a full bar, out of curiosity?
Yes, more so because the bottom line, if you're going to sell alcohol, the margins are better on full liquor. But it also changes the vibe. It changes the vibe when you've got cocktails, and not just when you can see it sitting on a table and there's a beautiful cocktail sitting there, but also with the bartenders. There's a different service mentality of someone who's pouring beer and wine and shots, or not even shots, but just beer and wine, versus someone who's shaking and mixing a cocktail, and there's garnishes and there's a totally different feel to it. And that was something that I knew that I wanted to be a part of it. It was something that I had learned by working with Tony, that it was all of those things together. It was the cocktail program, the food program, the wine program. It was all of those different elements combined that added to the vibe of the restaurant, the clientele, the type of service, all of those things. And so I knew that aspect was something I wanted for myself.
Pizza makers, if you're looking for a premium pizza cheese, Baccio cheese is the game changer you need. With a kiss of buffalo milk, Baccio delivers unbeatable melt and stretch for your perfect pizza every time. Plus, with a Baccio Gold Club Rewards program, you earn cash back for every pound of cheese you buy, up to 18 cents per pound. So the more cheese you use, the more you earn. To request a sample, use the link in the show notes and make sure you tell them What's Good Dose sent you. When bringing this grand plan of yours to life, you thought, let's have a slice case. And I assume part of that reasoning, part of the rationale for that was you have a lot of foot traffic, you have the UC here. How is your slice program doing?
Slices are difficult because it's usually set hours where people are open to slices. And although we are in the downtown of Berkeley, there are music venues, the Cal campus, stuff like that. It is a very kind of up and down nature throughout the day. It's not San Francisco where you've got more tourism, where you've got more consistent foot traffic and things like that. Like I don't have, it's not the same. So the clientele's a little bit different. Yeah, lunch, we know for a fact, slices are gonna be great for lunch. We know that dinner, it's kind of an up and down thing, more so if there's concerts and things like that, but the downtown of Berkeley is not the same as the downtown of other cities. So, as well as with the Cal campus, there's other sides to the Cal campus, so it's not like everyone's being funneled to my area.
I see.
So there is a little bit of an up and down with it. I'm still trying to kind of figure it out. We have to balance the demand for it, but at the same time not wasting too much product because of certain times of day and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a challenge.
Are you open to like just ditching the idea completely if it, or are you like, I'll find a way to make it work? Where do you stand on that?
I kind of want to keep it if I can. I want people to have every option when they come in here, as opposed to pushing them away entirely. It just might not be, okay, you have every option under the sun. A lot of people, because they see our menu or they hear about us, they think, oh, well, they've got pan styles. That means they must all have everything by the slice. No, I don't offer every single style that I carry by the slice.
So you have New York slices for the most part.
During lunch, up until 4 o'clock, we do New York slices only.
And that's an 18-inch pizza.
18-inch pizza, cut into 6. So it is a little bit of a larger slice than you would normally. But we also do our Sicilian by the slice during our happy hour, so during the day. So it is there, it's just not there all the time.
Right.
So as it gains momentum and people learn about it, you see more people coming back for it. But we're still kind of learning how it works.
Earlier, prior to us recording, we were talking about the slivers and the cheese boards of the world that offer only one style of pizza. How do you feel about that?
I've always been of the opinion to try and give people more options. I don't want to drive people away. When they get in the door, you want people to stay. You want to capture their business somehow. And I know it might not be ideal, but so I offer 4. It's enough variety so that they're not just choosing a cheese or a pepperoni, but it's not so much variety where I've got too many things sitting and now I'm throwing things away and stuff like that. So I offer as much variety as I can to as many people as I can within reason.
Then if slices are like up and down during the lunchtime area, would you say that the dining room is pretty busy during lunch, or is most of your crowd during dinner service?
No, we get a consistent lunch. I mean, of course it's lunch, it's not dinner. So, and especially in this area, lunch is a very specific hour to hour and a half in the day, and then it tends to die off. But again, that's also kind of seasonal. With students, it's not like the high school where they're all in school, they only get one lunch period, and then they're in school for the rest of the day. College is different, right? You go to class, you might not have another one all day, you might have one 4 hours from now, so you can kind of tell with the age groups that their lunch tends to change a little bit, but the dining room tends to fill up for lunch at least once, and then it'll trickle in and out before and after those set lunch periods, but it's worth being open for. I can say that much, at least. The lunch is worth being open for. We do limit the hours. We're not open all day. We do close in the middle of the day during the weekdays. So we open for lunch and then we close, we reset the restaurant, we finish prep. It helps more the business side, get people off the clock. And then we open for dinner and of course go through dinner service.
You do like this one thing that, it was the first time I've ever seen it, but like a grandma pizza cut into all corners, all triangles.
Yeah.
Where did that inspiration come from?
I just wanted to be a little bit different. I always hated that fact that there was always going to be like 1 or 2 or 4 squares in the middle that had no crust.
Yeah.
And it's always one of these like,
too.
how do I hold it? Now my fingers are in the sauce. Now it's one of those like, for me, it was always a little awkward of like, well, I love the middle slice, but how do I hold it without it getting everywhere? And yeah, you can fold it, but then it squishes out or it doesn't. It just, to me, it was always like my OCD part of my personality clicked in. And so I was like, well, if I cut it into triangles, then you have a corner to hang on to. So
that's very smart. It was the first time I had seen it was, I don't know, either you or Truly. Who came first?
We did.
Did you get?
But believe me, I don't take credit for it in the sense of, well, yeah, I mean, but I existed before Truly did, but who knows how long they were working on stuff. It wasn't like an exchange of information. It wasn't like Chris or Mike or anyone on their team was like, hey, Laura, check what we're doing. It was just I did it because I thought of it, and I'm pretty sure they did it because they thought of it. It wasn't like they saw what I was doing or I saw what they were doing, because we were kind of working on building both of our restaurants at the same time. So I think it just kind of happened.
I was so surprised. You invented a new style.
I wouldn't call it a new style. But
a better way of doing things?
I don't know. It just made sense in my head.
It makes a million times more sense.
And I know that there are people out there that are going to say, 1, it's not a grandma because of X, Y, and Z, or because it's not cut into squares, or 2, because of the way that I cook it and I prep it. And like, there's a lot of reasons why mine differs from the East Coast grandma. But at the same time, like most pizza makers, I'm not trying to replicate it exactly. I'm putting my twist on it.
So designing the restaurant was more or less easy because it was already an existing restaurant? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay, so were these already here, or?
To a certain extent, yes.
Yeah.
Most everything was here to a certain extent. I just kind of moved things around, but from having worked in various kitchens, I knew what I liked and what I didn't like in terms of space between equipment, especially the oven. So expo line is actually over here.
Okay.
So during service, the food runner expediter is here, this is where all the food comes, it converges, right? So the pizza area, the hotline where apps come, pasta come, so they all come here, and then it goes out to the dining room, or it comes around for to-go and delivery.
Okay.
So it's one of those things where everything converges in that area, and then it goes out where it needs to go. But this is just specifically the pizza area. So this is your finish line, what I know as a finish line. So usually on peak days, you've got someone here who just sticks it.
One person.
It's all the finishing ingredients, but it's also backup, like sauce, it's backup, just backups of everything, because you're going through service. Mm-hmm. So of course the hanging shelf, it's gonna be, your boxes, your pans, your trays, thinking about.
The pizzas get served on trays. So these are like built in, that's tight.
Yeah, so they come out. So it's great because we try and keep it so that way stuff that goes into the dining room is only used for the dining room. So we try not to cook on these in terms of prep.
They're clean.
Because they tarnish. And then same thing with these. So this is, but of course you do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
And then same thing with the half sheet pans. It's the same general thing. They come out, you can multi-purpose it.
These are for Sicilians and the smaller ones are for Detroit?
Detroit.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you serve, we didn't even talk about, you serve 5?
We do four styles. Yeah, so we do the Sicilian, the Detroit, Grandma, and then a classic round New York. So it gives as much variety as possible. And the way that I built the menu was normally in restaurants past, whether it's one I've worked in or whether I've seen, a lot of the times they've got a lot of different styles, but they only have 4, 5, or however many preset combinations for that one style. And that's it. So I wanted it to be pick your style, pick your flavor. So that way you actually have 4 times the amount of variety with literally not changing anything. You know, I've always kind of struggled with being called a chef by other chefs, because in my mind, a chef and a pizzaiola or pizzaiolo are 2 different things. And not that they don't cross, but the mentality is a little bit different. You know, and my training has been in pizza, and it's not been in like whole hog cooking or, you know, other skill sets. And so when it comes to developing flavors, you know, I have a different way of thinking about things just because of my exposure and my training. And so I knew going into it, for the first bit, I overthought everything, because it's this, I'm in California, I'm in Berkeley, I'm down the street from Alice Waters, I grew up in the pizza industry, and it was this conflict of, okay, well, I want it to be great, obviously, and I want it to be, you know, emblematic of me, but how farm to table does it need to be? How, you know, like how nuanced does it need to be? How out of the box does it have to be? How crazy, you know, it was one of these like, who the hell am I?
Yeah.
And what am I presenting to the world?
So where did you end up?
Simple, approachable, a little bit something for everyone. I named a lot of things after people in my life. So that was like my little personal touch. So everything is very approachable, let's just say.
Awesome. And so today you're going to make us a New York style pizza, which is representative of like one of your, I don't know, most made pizza.
Sure.
Right? Because you do slices. I'm sure you're well known for it. And then you're also going to do a grandma.
Yes.
Perfect. Which one do you want to start with?
Well, I par bake my grandmas.
Okay.
And I know the traditional New Yorkers are probably going to cringe at that.
Like, I'm gonna have different thoughts about Laura Meyer now.
And that's okay. But for my shop, as well as not just because what I wanted flavor-wise, texture-wise, stuff like that, but for the nature of this restaurant with offering 4 different styles and knowing the volume that comes in as fast as it does, par bakes make the most sense. Okay, so one of the things that makes my grandma a little bit different as compared to, let's say, an East Coast is that I proof mine. A lot of the times grandmas are not proofed in the pan, they are stretched and then baked.
Okay.
Whereas mine tend to get a little bit proofed just because the way that we prep them out, the way that we store our dough, things like that, it needs a little bit of proof time to be able to really get into the corners of the pan and really make sure that it's square, make sure that it stays square, make sure, you know, just all of the
labor of love.
All the different things. So we do proof ours a little bit, so it does change the texture some. But because we proof it in the pan and it's meant to be thinner and a little bit crispier, we actually dock ours. So we're gonna proof it, but then we are going to take some of that gas out. We're not looking for it to be a Sicilian. We're not looking for it to be a thick pan pie. We want it to have a little bit of texture and a little bit of a crumb, but on the thinner side.
Got it.
So.
And this is a 12 by 12 pan?
Is a 14.
14.
So this is a 14-inch pan. Again, it was one of those, I wanted to offer variety. So I didn't want to just offer a small, medium, and a large. It was, you know, there are some limitations. It's not a free-for-all. But if you're looking for a larger pie, then you order a Sicilian or an 18-inch New York. And then they all have different sizes. It's one size only, but they're all different sizes. So you can kind of mix and match depending on the group size and all that stuff. So there's a thought and there's a madness to it. You know, it's the ability to offer variety without overcomplicating the system.
If it's just me rolling through, I might just get a Detroit or, share that. Or if I'm coming with like my wife and the kid, maybe we'll do a grandma, or maybe we'll do like 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a way to please everybody without crazily overcomplicating the system.
Okay.
And that was the goal. It was, how do I offer as much as I can without breaking the bank, without ruining my product costs, without ruining my equipment costs, without, you know, all of those things. I'm going to dock it, which we're just going to do that. And then it's going to go in the oven. We par bake right around the same temp as we bake. So usually all 3 decks are on and set to the same temp throughout the night. During the day, obviously when we're par baking and we're prepping, you know, it's a free-for-all of like where there's space, you go for it. Obviously we do everything all at once, so it's all the Sicilians at once, all the grandmas at once. You know, there is a little bit of a method to the madness.
550 degrees and 5 and 5 for those at home. And this is a Pizza Master 933?
934.
934. Sheesh.
So it's wide. It's wide, but it gives, for the volume we go through on a Friday and a Saturday night and a Sunday,
it's appropriate.
You need it. I mean, we do relegate certain things. So like we tend to keep all of the pans in the middle deck and then all of the raw pies on the top deck and the bottom deck, purely because it's easier to see it visually based on the height of all the employees. It's harder to see into a Detroit pan on the top deck.
Yeah.
When you're my height and the pan is 3 inches high.
Be tippy-toeing.
Because I can't see over the rim of the pan. I can't tell. So it's just facts. Like I can't see it. So we keep all the pans on the bottom because that way everyone can see it. All of the raw pies go on top and bottom, and then it also just makes it easier just physically being able to reach and grab and move and shift and, you know, shuffle things around.
Check this out right here. So we're having some lift here. Are you scared of that at all? Because whenever I see that, I freak out.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
What's going to happen?
It's going to happen. It's going to happen because I don't put a lot of oil in the pan when I proof it out.
Uh-huh.
So there's nothing like keeping it to the bottom of the pan. But the beauty of the par bake is once it sits and I go to rebake it, it's going to be flush on the pan. And if I absolutely have to, I'll deck it. I'll take it out of the pan and I'll deck it. It's not like, to me, it's not the end of the world if I have to take it out of the pan. It doesn't mean that I didn't do it well.
Yeah.
It's just, especially with throughout the night, as the stones cool down and things like that, it makes it hard. It's hard to do volume. So there's like little things that you can do to counteract this, what people look at as inconsistencies, when in actuality, it honestly kind of helps.
Yeah.
So it's learning how to adjust. So a little bit of color.
Nice.
That's it.
Cool.
So we're gonna let that cool for a little bit.
Okay. Making New York pizza.
Yeah, we're just gonna make a classic round. It's a 12 to 13 inch pizza, and so
Depending on the day.
Depending on who's stretching it, to be honest. But it's a 13-ounce dough ball because it's usually, for me, I usually like to match the ounce to the size because it gives me the right amount of crust that I'm looking for without it being overly done.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hydration?
68.
68.
It's
okay,
very simple. It's not overly done, but...
We have a mixture of semolina and flour?
Correct.
And
just a little bit of crisp.
What kind of flour are you using?
This is Central Milling Tony G. It's a high protein, high gluten flour. I like it because I know I've learned how to cross it amongst different styles. So it works really well for my focaccia, but it works really well for all my other pans. It's a hybrid flour for me. I can push it and change it to what the application.
Is that what all the styles are using?
Yep, it's one dough, it's one flour, it's one thing. Right now, I'm telling you, I went, how can I give as much variety as possible with simplifying it as much as possible?
I love hearing that.
So there's a way to do it.
I love hearing that.
And all my pies are a little bit different. You know, even though it's one dough, the textures are all a little bit different. The application is a little bit different. So there is some difference to them.
Gotcha.
It doesn't just taste like one. So I like to dust mine. This dough by now is 4 days, so it's definitely gonna have a lot more flavor and be a lot easier to stretch than You know, normally my dough is anywhere between 36 to 48 hours.
And how long has it been proofing out of the fridge?
About 2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just gonna make you, I'm not gonna make you anything fancy. I'm just gonna make you something.
That's my preference.
Something easy.
That's my preference. I always make cheese pizzas at home, pepperoni, just
everyone gets attached to their equipment.
Uh-huh.
This is the spoon that I took when I left Tony's. Technically it was Capo's, but this is the spoon that has followed me for years, and I freaking love it. And I know, and it's one of those things where you know exactly how much product is going on there, you know exactly how to use it, you know the weight of it, you know how it feels, and he let me take the spoon when I left. So we're using a whole milk Mott's. It's not a blend. We shred this one ourselves.
Using
this
Hobart
is block
cheese?
Yep, we grind it ourselves.
Cool.
Makes it a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
And then it goes in.
Lovely. What are you doing there, knocking it?
Trying to get the flour out because I know that there's flour on the table. Yeah, it cooks more evenly. You don't taste it. Just all those things.
Why were we waiting for the grandma to chill a bit?
Yeah, well, with par bakes, if you try and put sauce, whether it's room temp or cold or anything, if you put sauce on a super hot par bake, it collapses.
Meaning like it gets watery, or
no,
breaks?
meaning like the dough is literally going to collapse.
Gotcha.
because it's the temperature contrast. It's something that's super hot out of the oven coming into contact with something that's way colder. So, and you can see that there is a little bit of color on the bottom there, but it's cool enough.
Really good.
But it's cool enough where I can put my hand on it, I can touch it, and it's fine, which means that the sauce going on top of it isn't gonna make it collapse.
Cool.
So I'll make you the Ray J, which is our top seller. The Ray J and the Regina are the two top sellers for me. The Regina is the pie that I won with in Parma in 2013, and the Ray J just so happens to be, it's named for my brother, but it's our top seller. Okay, so this one's almost done.
Okay.
So I'm looking for bottom. It needs a little bit of help, so we're gonna move it to a hot spot. And then we're gonna clean this guy.
See, this is how professionals move. It's so fluid and fast and smooth. They make it look so easy. I'm like, ugh. I need those.
Clean oven. Need a clean oven.
I need those years of experience, though. You move like a boss.
And then this, you know, we're gonna put it in the middle deck because I can see it.
Okay.
Because I'm not very tall.
Yeah.
But
story of my life.
But we have an in peel and an out peel.
Okay.
In peel is always going to be a little bit smaller. Out peel for me, because we're working with pans, is going to be larger. So it's a little bit of the reverse. Usually like Neapolitan, obviously you've got a larger in peel, a smaller out peel. But because we're working with Sicilians, sometimes this isn't enough, or a pan gripper. So sometimes you really need to get under it.
Yeah. Heard.
You need leverage. Cool.
Where are you landing? Over there?
So there it is, and we're gonna land right behind you.
My goodness.
Yeah. It's got color, sorry, cheese drippage, but it's not really going anywhere.
Yeah. That's what I wanted.
And then mine always go on pans with the dimples.
Yeah.
So that way, if there is any drippage, it doesn't sit in it. But so I always just do a tiny bit of oregano, tiny bit of Romano, just for a tiny bit of salt. And then I like a little bit of oil, but not a lot. And if you don't like it, we don't put it. But that's it. It's meant to be able to stick straight out.
Very strong.
Yeah. It's got nice.
Look at that crust. My goodness. Can we hold that up for the camera, that beautiful thing?
It's got good crust.
Look at that.
So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Cheers.
This is delicious. I like that you put all these spices at the end, or not spices, but like extra things, because it makes it like super reminiscent of a New York slice for me. Because I'd always be that kid who puts everything on, like the pepper, the cheese, the oregano, and like if I order a New York pizza, that's what I want on it.
It's just enough to be able to smell it, to be able to taste it, but it's not overriding. It's not like a holy crap, there's oregano on this pizza. No. It's just enough to accentuate flavor.
Yeah, and the oregano used is delicious.
Thanks. Yeah, listen to that crunch. See if it has enough color. To me, that looks great. If I needed to, I could take that out, deck it for a second.
Yeah.
And then pull this out. You know, especially during busy periods, if I needed to, I could deck it just to make sure I'm getting the crisp I need. And then we'll pull this out.
Not even like 10 seconds.
Sometimes you don't need to deck it, sometimes you do. It just depends on kind of how hot your oven is.
Yeah.
But as you know, I cut mine in squares.
Moment of truth.
So it's always an X and then a plus sign. Whew. And then we put ours on, it's a 12-inch pan, or I'm sorry, it's a 13, 14-inch pan because it'll always peek over the edges. And then this one, we're gonna make as our Ray. So it's gonna get burrata, basil, parm, our garlic fermented honey. Instead of, we don't do a hot honey, we do a garlic fermented honey that we do here in-house. So it's great, flavors are great, but even more so, it's a beautiful pie. It's complementary colors.
So you tear the burrata 2 pieces-ish per?
About,
and one in the middle.
We're always thinking about composition and color, complementary and contrasting colors, not just flavor.
So it makes it look super appealing to eat.
Exactly, especially nowadays with the Instagram world we live in. You know, you want the Instagrammable moment just as much as you want it to taste good. So we've got it all.
That is lovely.
Finish it with the parm.
I like how you're not shy with these ingredients. There was a solid cheese pull earlier. There was a good amount of like basil, which I love, and a good amount of parm. Yeah,
I want you to taste everything. I'm not looking to, like, I'm gonna appropriately charge.
Sure.
But I'm not gonna skimp on it either. So, you know, I want you to have a good experience. I don't want it to just be, oh, I got 2 pieces of pepperoni on it. It's like, no, it's there.
Oh my goodness. So, this is the grandma pie.
Yeah, I like it because you're gonna get a little bit more texture out of it because it's been proofed a little bit. So it's not gonna be all crunch. It's not gonna be all crisp. You are gonna get definitely crisp because our edges, right? And the thinness of it, but you are gonna get some texture out of it because it's been proofed a little bit. So
yeah, I love it. Can we dig in?
Yeah.
Let's go. Can you save me a corner slice? No one says no one ever.
Says no one ever. Cheers.
Wow. Cheers. That garlic honey though?
It's good, right?
I have never tried that before. I love it. And I think it's a great call for the pepperoni. You get like, they have very different flavors.
Yeah, different textures, different flavors. You're getting a different spice out of it. It's different when you get the 2 of them together as opposed to just one.
Yeah.
And the garlic fermented honey, I like it because, I'm gonna call a spade. I didn't want to be like everybody else. I didn't want to use a hot honey because everybody's using the hot honey. It doesn't mean that it's not delicious. I just wanted to be a little bit unique, a little bit different. And I also like it because the garlic fermentation actually thins out the honey a little bit. So it doesn't necessarily dilute it, but it does thin it because of the moisture that comes from the fermentation.
So around winter time, you're not worried about honey getting stuck in the bottle.
Exactly. I don't gotta worry about it. It's always gonna be a little bit thinner, but it's also not gonna like kick you in the face with sweetness as much because it is thinner.
There is
it's a more subtle.
I would say more complex than just regular honey, but like yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not quite as in-your-face sweet. It's a little bit more subtle in terms of like level of sweetness, but it's complex because you get the garlic fermentation in there.
I'm going to eat more, but as we wrap up here, I wanted to ask you, what do you think is next for Pizzeria da Laura?
Well, we're expanding, so that's what's next. So we're actually going through the wall. So the few like hammering that you probably heard throughout the day is the electricians working on the electrical.
Outgrew the space. Yeah. It wasn't.
Well, it's not.
I was just complimenting you about.
But I knew it was going to happen, and when I took a look at the space, I knew that the space next door was open. It was down to the studs. It's not like someone was in there. It just has been empty forever. And knowing the transition that the neighborhood was going through in terms of the building, the construction of apartments and student housing, the influx of the population that was coming, I knew that it wasn't going to be a right now, but it was going to be inevitable. Something in the future, and that to capitalize on that now and get ahead of it, especially because we're in a good place to do so, I jumped on it. So we're going to turn it into like a grab and go type market. So you'll be able to get beer and wine to go, but you'll also be able to get like our lasagna to go, a pizza kit, a frozen pizza, or something like that, because it's geared towards the sector of the market that we aren't getting, which is the people, especially the students, the people who want to eat at home, but they don't really want to cook. And they don't want to order delivery. So it's one of those like they don't want to make it themselves, but they don't want to eat out. They don't want the full experience. They want to sit at home on their couch, but they want restaurant quality food. And so that's the market that we're kind of going to be going after. And so it just makes sense. And it's literally right next door. We're going through the wall.
Better to expand next door than having to find a different location. I know you weren't a fan of splitting your time earlier.
Exactly.
I
have enough space, prep space, storage space to be able to accommodate it, to be able to afford it. It also just means that it opens me up to be able to do more catering, more, big orders for like the university, just all of those types of things. It just affords me that much more. So it made sense. I thought it was a smart move. We're going to do it, and I think it's going to be great.
I am truly impressed. Congratulations.
Thanks, Hydra. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Final question, as I like to end all these episodes. Please, if you can do me a favor and let the viewers know what's good dough. No right or
I'm not even sure how to answer the question. Life's good. Pizza's good. Nothing's wrong.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, appreciate it.